Even though the MCU has been a cinematic powerhouse for 16 years running, there is now more reason than ever for the speculated soft reboot. When Iron Man first debuted in cinemas in 2008, the concept of a linked cinematic universe was a radical experiment, but Marvel's creative team managed to strike a balance between scope and complexity with the MCU's Infinity Saga. With fewer main characters, it was simpler to write a coherent plot, but the MCU has lost some of its cohesiveness as it has grown to greater and greater lengths. And it is not just speculation. In 2023, Joanna Robinson, the author of the illuminating book MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios, revealed about a potential MCU fresh start by saying that we have a quote from Kevin Feige sort of implying that, like Secret Wars will serve as a soft reboot in which they can prune everything. They will prune everything that's not working and just keep what is working, or bring back people you thought were gone forever. Plans may change, so even if a mild relaunch in or after Avengers: Secret Wars was originally planned, only time will tell if it is still carried out. It's difficult to contest that a more organized history wouldn't alleviate the MCU's current problems. Teasers and cliffhangers have been the staple of the Iron Man brand ever since Nick Fury first addressed Tony Stark about the Avengers initiative in the post-credits sequences. But the early films in Marvel's cinematic world often followed up on loose ends very fast. After being approached by Fury, Stark went on to assemble heroes for the Incredible Hulk later that year. The final scene of Iron Man 3 featured Thor's hammer in the desert, and the next year Thor was freed to confront that scenario. That approach is still used in the current MCU, albeit rewards are now much more slowly delivered or never occur at all. It is not difficult to understand why. There was a strong narrative focus on the 6 original Avengers: Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hawkeye, Black Widow, and Hulk in the Infinity Saga, but there were also side projects like the Guardians of the Galaxy, who were mostly kept outside from the larger MCU until Infinity War. It's difficult to identify the main characters of the multiverse saga these days. With the exception of Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel, every character in the Infinity Saga who appeared in a solo film received at least one sequel to wrap up their tale and resolve any cliffhangers or teases from the first picture. But since the latter two weren't revealed until much later in the story, it seems sense that there wouldn't be a sequel. Conversely, in the multiverse saga, not a single hero presently features 2 films, leaving unresolved storylines. While this will certainly be rectified when some of Marvel Studios' previously undisclosed Phase 6 projects are revealed, it doesn't really address the issue of how slowly new tales and characters are being revisited. Kit Harington portrays Dane Whitman, the future Black Knight in Eternals, and most recently he stated that there aren't any plans to bring his character back. Scenes like these, which don't seem to have any predetermined intentions for ending, suggest that a franchise-wide pruning may be necessary to make the Marvel movie plots more digestible. There are 3 ways the MCU might refocus its stories and characters to make them simpler to understand for a wider audience while still benefiting the internal story. Marvel Studios has 3 options. It can dismiss what isn't working and move on, or it can utilize a soft reboot to condense the MCU down to something more manageable. It can also find the time to handle the hundreds of continuing tales and standardize various characters into coherent franchises. It appears that the latter is the superior choice. Coincidentally, there's a forthcoming Avengers film, which makes this the ideal opportunity to upend the current quo and implement a more cohesive and concrete strategy both inside and outside the world. If Avengers: Secret Wars draws heavily from the narrative of the same name in Marvel Comics, this would be the ideal moment for a reboot. The multiverse's worlds clash and are destroyed in the source material Secret Wars, giving rise to a more cohesive primary chronology for Marvel Comics. Some characters from other planets crossed across and became staples of Earth 616 in the process. Even in the MCU's primary Earth 616 continuity, the same thing is possible. Marvel Studios may refocus on what's working and discard what isn't by using a multiversal reset to write some characters and tales out or bring them back from death. In the real world, too, the time is perfect. A narrative saga's conclusion is the ideal moment for transformation. It's never made more sense to cut the MCU's figurative fat, especially with the X-Men and Fantastic Four, 2 more noteworthy teams on the horizon. Even a mild reboot looks intimidating since it would probably entail saying goodbye to a fan's favorite character or eagerly awaited plot. The alternative, meanwhile, calls into question whether the MCU can be coherent at all as the brand expands even more in the upcoming years and into whatever comes after the multiverse saga. Though everything is conceivable, it just doesn't seem plausible. The MCU is now divided into a number of rather distinct story spheres, including street level, which includes Daredevil and Spider-Man, the global including the Avengers, cosmic including Captain Marvel and the Guardians of the Galaxy, and magical including Doctor Strange. There will soon be even more storylines added to those that are already continuing on their own paths. Blade may launch a Midnight Suns-style horror sub-franchise, while the Fantastic Four will probably carve out their own niche in the film world. In addition, the X-Men have always existed in a nearly independent Marvel universe. Refocusing these storylines through a soft reboot is one possibility. Another is to completely abandon sweeping sagas in favor of sub-franchises. Various team-up efforts might incorporate whoever makes sense, rather than the Avengers uniting the heroes of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In any case, it's obvious that something has to give, and until Avengers Secret Wars opens in cinemas in 2027, it's unlikely that solutions will surface.